Hello, and welcome back to the Life as a Fitness Instructor podcast. Today, I have the amazing Lucy Taylor, who is brand owner of Decades Reloaded, chatting all about her journey from working full-time in IT to becoming a Zumba instructor to becoming the brand owner she is today and really leading the way with fitness and mental health. She is so inspiring, and I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. If you do, please do like, subscribe, share on your socials, and let's get right to it. So a very warm welcome to the podcast, Lucy. Hello. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, you're more than welcome. So Lucy is an absolute superstar, super brand owner, instructor, Coach of the Year 2023 with the Coach Foundation, as seen in Forbes. Lucy has won the St. Helena's Hospice Award for Innovation in 2019. She is a mum juggling work life, juggling brand, juggling teaching, and also spreading a really important message about mental health awareness. And you're doing that through your brand, Decades Reloaded. And also runner-up Female Fitness Instructor of the Year 2021. Third best dance-based fitness workout. That was 2021 as well, right? You
Yeah.
came third, runner-up in 2022 and 2023. I mean, I know you're modest, Lucy, but you deserve recognition because you're a boss lady, can I just say?
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm just a very passionate person.
And it totally comes across in everything you do. Like all of your socials, I follow you on everything. It really does come across. So I would love to get to know the Lucy Taylor behind Decades Reloaded, kind of where you started and what your message is, what you're trying to bring across with Decades Reloaded, and what you're really strongly passionate about. And then maybe tying that over into future projects and what you've got in the pipeline. So let's start
Things to
with
talk about then.
so much to talk about, so much. Maybe it'll have to be a two-parter, who knows?
I am a talker.
That's totally fine. Me too. So I'd love to start with kind of your background, how you got started in the fitness industry, what made you want to become a fitness instructor?
So it wasn't something that I dreamed of doing. I dreamed of being a dancer rather than a fitness instructor, as I think lots of us do in the industry. And I was told when I was younger that I needed to stop dancing because of degeneration in my spine and a curvature in my spine, which I had problems with from my early teens. So I was just sort of branching out, running some dance classes for local youths who needed somewhere to go on the weekend for something to do. And I'd got told to stop dancing. So I stopped, but just completely stopped. And I was working in IT as my backup plan for what to do sort of next. I sort of stumbled into IT. I'm quite a fluky person. I don't want to jinx myself by saying that, and I'm not superstitious or anything like that. But I'd I'd got made redundant from a job, and I went into a job that I was just doing, not long after finishing college, and I got put into an IT role working in the NHS and all around this same time, and it just seemed like a bit of a no-brainer to stick at the IT and make a backup plan out of it. So that's what I did. So instead of stepping away from work, I went off to London, did the IT thing, made a full career out of it, worked up to be a project manager.
Oh,
And then I had a baby, and life all sort of changed a little bit. I started teaching fitness before then. So it became a bit of a sideline. I'd found Zumba fitness was a really good compromise. I could dance, but it didn't aggravate the problems with my back or anything
yeah.
like that. And some friends of mine encouraged me to train to teach Zumba. So at this point, I had my son, I was trained to teach Zumba. I was doing a little bit of it for fun, covering the odd classes for my friends, and just really enjoying fitness. And I was like, oh, actually, I really quite like this.
Yeah.
And I just, when like a light bulb goes, if you think, well, if the Zumba doesn't hurt, I could maybe do this a few more times a week and maybe I don't have to be bored in the office all the time, or I didn't really fit in IT, let's be clear. I'm not a sit still and be quiet person, and it doesn't work very well in an office full of people that are very focused on what they're doing on their computer and they don't want to talk.
Yeah. I always find that
Um,
in my other job, if I ever need to get in touch with IT, I ring them and they're like, "Hey, yeah, do you want to send us a ticket?" And then you've got to write a ticket. No one wants
yeah,
to talk today. It's so true.
no, no, absolutely. So I was always the person in the office. If I needed something done, I wouldn't send an email. I'd just go and chase them down. But then I would stand and chat, and that like the developers would just look at me like, "Do you need anything else? Do you want to write this code for me?" And I'm like, "No, you're good. See you later."
But then maybe that's what stood you in such good stead, how you worked your way up, made a full career, and you're a project manager because you're this kind of person, outgoing,
um,
bubbly, lovely person.
I definitely think that my career in IT has made launching a brand a little bit easier for
Hmm.
me. So I manage my own websites. I do all of the techie stuff all myself. I don't need to rely on other people for that. And if I have a vision of how I want it, if I want to change it in the middle of the night, I can.
Yeah.
So it's helped build me up, and it built up a lot of resilience
Mm.
as well. Because I mean, I started in IT at 18. So when you're a young woman working in a predominantly middle-aged male industry, which it was at the time, it's not like that now, but we're talking 18 years ago. So
Yeah.
just realizing my age. So um, at the time, you had to, they don't want to listen to an 18-year-old girl in a project meeting or anything like that. And even when I was in my early 20s, people would just dismiss me as young and stupid, and I'm a girl, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. So you have to kind of learn to just stand up and say, well, actually, do you know what I do? And this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
You can like it or lump it.
Yeah. So
And
in a
just learn to
way,
believe
giving you
in what
those
you
life
think.
skills, those like
Absolutely.
essential life skills are so useful. And like you said, so useful for being a brand owner now.
And you meet so many
Interested in,
different types of people in the role as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, I know when you said that you're working in IT, your friends were encouraging you to become a Zumba instructor. So, what was it that your friends kind of saw? What was the spark that made them say, "You need to do this, Lucy"?
Do you know what it is? It's just because I went to their classes and I got friendly with them by attending their classes. And I just remember them asking me, like a few classes into me first start, and they just said, "Do you dance?" And I was like, "Well, I used to." And they're like, "Yeah, you can tell." And then we just got chatting, like, "Oh, you'd be a great Zumba instructor. And then you could cover for us." And I'm like, oh, "Okay." And I was like, "No, no, I'm out of the game now. I don't need to do that sort of thing." And I didn't jump at the chance straight away to do it. It took a little bit of teasing the idea before,
Oh,
but that's feels like such a long time ago now. And I just went off and did it in the end because life's too short not just to go and do it. And I thought, well, I'm going to do the course. If I don't like it, I don't have to do it. Turns out I really enjoyed it. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's the best job in the world, isn't it?
it
So
is. And
from
I think when you go on a
Sorry?
course, I think you find your feet or you don't. You either feel like, yeah, this is clicking, this feels natural, this is where I'm supposed to be, or it doesn't. And it just felt like I'd come home.
um, I love
So
that. Yeah.
it seemed like a natural progression to move to.
Yeah. So how did you get from teaching Zumba to creating Decades Reloaded? What did that look like? And how long was that sort of duration, that time from qualifying as a Zumba instructor, thinking, well, if I like it, I'll carry on, great, to finding you love it, and then creating Decades Reloaded?
So I did the Zumba in 2015 or 16. I can't remember. It was one of them. 2016, I think it was. And I designed Decades in 2019. So I was just doing Zumba for the fun. And then I got made redundant on my maternity leave.
Oh gosh.
So, which is why I want to say it was 2015, but irrelevant. So, I got made redundant on my maternity leave, and so then I panicked and I found a new job, still in IT, but it was going to involve a lot more traveling around than what
Mm.
I decided I was going to do. I was only ever going to go back part time, and then I was going to do half fitness, half the old job.
Yes.
And I took on this new job anyway. And then when my son was 11 months old, I went up to the Lake District for a meeting. I'd only been at the job a month. So I'd not long gone back from my maternity. I started the job in March. And then I had to go up to the Lake District. So I'm down in Essex. That's quite a trek. Um, and
Definitely.
I was
Gosh, yeah,
really,
Essex, Lake District.
yeah. And I went, I was really worried about going. It's just something didn't feel right. It was the first time I was going to leave my firstborn child overnight and be away from him. I was still just getting used to not being with him during the day, let alone leaving him for 2 days and being away overnight. It's so far away.
It really is.
Um, and it's like Barrow in Finesse way. So it's like up and then hooking back round and back down. So if anything had gone wrong, and I was just really paranoid, and I was saying to his dad, my other half, I was like, I'm really worried, something really bad's gonna happen. And as any good partner would do, he's like, you're being silly, everything's gonna be fine. You can always just drive home. And everything wasn't fine. I woke up, I went and I woke up the next morning and I thought everything was fine. I went to my meeting and then no one was answering the phone to me. Before I came back home, my dad had texted me to see if, sorry, I can normally hold it together
Um,
when I talk about this, but apparently not today.
just take a moment, honestly,
So
it's fine.
no one would answer the phone to me. And I knew my mum had been unwell with a cold, flu type thing. And she'd messaged me the night before and I hadn't replied to her because it was late and I was asleep. And she'd just messaged me to tell me that she loved me. And nobody was answering the phone. So I was ringing my grandparents, both sets of grandparents, my dad. No one was answering. Then my cousin rang me really out of the blue.
Mm.
It was a weird conversation. I was like, okay, something's going on. My nan literally answered in the end and hung up on me halfway through me asking where my mum and dad were. And then I got hold of my other nan, which is my mum's mum. And she was like, saying to my granddad, whose name is Phil, she was like, Phil, she wants to know where her mum is. And I was like, okay, stop messing with me now. Has she gone to hospital? Has her flu got worse? And she was like, no, it's worse than that. And at this point, I'd just joined the back of a tailback on the M6 as I'd come out of the lakes because there'd been an accident and they'd shut the road. And thank God I wasn't moving because she then told me that my mum had died.
Oh, Lucy.
I don't actually know what's worse is the fact that she had to tell me her daughter was dead or tell her granddaughter that her mum had died. I don't know which is the worst way round, but either way, and I was like, you are joking, aren't you? I genuinely thought she was, I don't know what I thought or why I would think that my nan would joke about her own daughter being dead, but that's, and everything just changed after that. So I I went back to work 3 days later. It was a really long drive home, by the way. Stuck on
Yeah.
the M6 for quite a few hours. I didn't get home till about 9:30 at night. Um, and I just went and grabbed my son and then drove around to see my dad. But I had to go back up to the Lake District 3 days later for a meeting with another council in a different area of the lakes. And I spent a lot of time driving up the M6 and the A14 doing the same route in the year to follow. And I just felt myself disappearing more and more to a point where I just when I got signed off work, I had a bit of a breakdown. It was coming up to the 1 year anniversary of losing her, and I was teaching in the evenings, and that was on the nights where I was at home, and that was really the only thing that was keeping me going in between having my son. And I mean, my son didn't really care I existed because he never saw me, so he was always crying for the nanny or for his dad because I wasn't there. um, so everything just came to a bit of a head, and I walked away from that career in the end. And I just said to my other half, who was really supportive, I don't want to do this anymore. And he didn't know he didn't recognize me anymore. He was like, you don't talk anymore. You just like, you're here, but you're not here anymore. And our little boy needs you to be here, not wherever you've gone. So he was very supportive. He said, look, if you think you can, I was being headhunted for classes at this point in my local area. All the gyms here or within like a 15-mile radius will contact me. Can you come and teach for us? And I was running community classes because in the February of 2017, I'd also trained in club size. So I had quite a lot going on in terms of classes for me as well. So he said, if you think you can make it work and you can take on some more classes, just do it. If it's going to make you happier. All we knew is I couldn't carry on doing those journeys anymore. And then I worked from home in between my meetings, so I couldn't be home and isolated all day anymore either. Knowing my son's at someone else's house whilst I was sat at home seemed stupid. So it was, I just went, right, I'm done. I'm going to make fitness my full-time thing. And I just did. And it just honestly is the best thing I've ever done.
Oh, Lucy,
really couldn't have made a better decision. So they say everything happens for a reason. And I know it's really hard for most people to comprehend the fact that losing your mum would have to be a silver lining, but actually she would have always encouraged me to stay in my job in IT. And I was never truly myself whilst I worked in IT. I was being somebody that I'm not, trying to fit into that mold. And now I get so much reward out of what I'm doing. I don't have to treat my personality disorder with any medication because of what I'm doing. I genuinely, life is just so much better. I have a great relationship with my son. I have a daughter now too. I can be at school plays and like assembly this afternoon because my daughter's getting a certificate. I can do all of that stuff and still be a boss woman, like you called me. So I wouldn't have done that otherwise. I would have still been doing something that made me unhappy.
Oh, I just want to say what a journey you've been on. And also, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I'm so sorry to hear about your mum. Like, I've got the biggest lump in my throat right now.
I do that to people.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that story. And good for you. Good for you for doing that and taking that massive and probably quite terrifying step as well to come out of a job that, it's secure, it's there, it's well paid, to follow your dream and do something that makes you truly happy. Not many people would be able to do that. And you've made it work because you're a boss lady.
I didn't want to lose my house. It was working somehow. There was no choice.
No, I would obviously for some people might not actually know what Decades Reloaded is. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what Decades Reloaded is, and then that transition from doing Decades Reloaded. So you've made the jump, you created Decades Reloaded brand, kind of to where you are now and the challenges that you've had along the way. So if you just tell us a little bit, about what it is and some of the challenges that come with being a brand owner.
It was never going to be a brand. First and foremost, it was never, that was not my intention. I've never had dreams of being on stage or doing anything of this brand-based stuff that I have to do now. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it, but it's not where I was heading with it. I was very focused on like my community fitness business locally here in Colchester, and in 2019, I just got to a point where I was still sort of navigating grief. I call it delayed grief because it took me a really long time to actually acknowledge the loss of my mum, and it took a long time to get to a point where I can usually talk about it slightly better than I did today. And the only thing that really helped was dancing along to all the music that I grew up listening to. You know, like family discos that used to go on. Like back in the 90s, we had great family discos. I mean, I remember the turn of the millennium, and there were families and aunts and uncles that weren't blood related aunts and uncles, and somebody's next door neighbor, and everyone brought a plate, and there was definitely more alcohol floating around the village hall than what any alcohol license would permit with all the adults. And you'd have a proper old school DJ. You'd be doing, I don't know, the Macarena or a bit of Wigfield Saturday night, and somebody would do Agadoo, and then you'd have a bit of Kylie Minogue on or whatever. And it was just, and like, we'd have like evenings where my parents' friends would come round and they'd just be singing ABBA in the lounge on a karaoke machine. And I think most of my memories of my parents drunk singing ABBA.
Brilliant.
I mean, my mum was the original dancing queen. She loved ABBA. She loved that song. She loved the dance. So I was just dancing to all that sort of music at home, but it didn't fit into teaching the brands that I was already doing. So I was like, I want to dance to this when I go to work. So I just made a class where I could dance to all the stuff that I like dancing to that made me feel better and think about, you know, happier times in my life.
Yeah.
So I sort of had a playlist of songs I wanted to do. I didn't really have a name for it. But obviously it needed a name. It needed to be something so that people here locally in Colchester would go, well, that sounds cool. And it needed to encapsulate that it was sort of any decade of music and any genre of music and like all that feel good nostalgia that comes with it. And Dance Fit wasn't going to do it because most people would look and go, oh, it's going to be all chart music or whatever. But there's like a whole demographic of people that just weren't tapping into dance fitness because they'd contact me and be like, oh, I'm not really into the Latin thing. I don't really like Zumba.
Yeah.
Or for whatever reason, you know, they don't like the music, they don't like I've spoken to people a lot about like there's a lot of rotational work. So in Latin dance, so for people's joints, it doesn't always sit very comfortably, or they didn't want to come to clubber because they didn't like disco lights, or they didn't want to hold the glow sticks, or they just don't like club music. People love club music, but they didn't like club music. And I get that because I've moved a little bit out of my club music era. I loved all like the trance and everything else, but I've kind of my music interests again, sort of I still love it, but I really love the stuff that I do in decades as well now. So much more than what I appreciated it when I was younger. And there was none of that about. So I was like, well, I'm just going to give all these people that want to listen to all their favorite music from like the 50s or the 70s or now or whatever, and just stick it all in one big playlist. Pick all the best songs that are just going to make everyone feel fantastic. And then we're just going to all get really friendly about it and just sing and dance and fling each other around a room. I mean, because I worked from home, one thing I was really aware of is a lot of people don't have a single positive in-person interaction all day long. So, and like a lot of the classes in the gym, people wouldn't talk to one another, or a very select few would, or they'd have to come with someone, and nobody else would really mix. Any classes in the dark, people didn't tend to talk to each other because it was in the dark, so they couldn't really see each other so much, and it didn't like that's just locally for me. Like people just they wouldn't talk so much in those classes. They wouldn't mingle with people that they didn't know. So I wanted to make people have some kind of positive interaction with another human being every time they stepped into my class. So I choreographed it into the routines that they would literally have to come face to face with another person and either laugh, clap, smile, swing them in a do-si-do, whatever it takes, just to get them to do something to acknowledge another person. Because it's really important when you've been alone all day and you're just emails or phone calls or even things like this is not the same as having some real human interaction. So, in a nutshell, Decades Reloaded became a class that involved good old nostalgic music, anything from cheese, rock, pop, anything you like. I mean, you can have. I have literally got ABBA and Eminem in the same playlist for Fit Jam.
That is fantastic. I,
Um,
I would love to
you
come and
can
do that.
you can put two better things next to each other in a playlist, and it's social and it's social connections. So
Mm.
you don't really walk into a Decades class and expect to be on your own the whole session.
Yeah.
You will be encouraged to interact with another human being
So
throughout the session.
unique though. So unique because you think of a group fitness studio, generally it's a studio, mirrors at the front, a bar, instructor at the front. That's it. You stand and you pretty much look at yourself in the mirror for the
Yeah.
whole 45 minutes or whatever. That's so different how you've integrated actually eyeballing somebody in the middle of the routine to build that social connection. That's genius. It's a
I
really
mean,
good
one of
idea.
our instructors, Jen from Easy Movers in Cornwall, she posted a video last night, and this happens all the time for me as well, actually. She was trying to start her class last night, her decades class, but they were all doing too much of this that she just gave up trying to tell them they were starting and just went over to put the music on. And she's filmed herself laughing whilst they're all just nattering behind her. And it was going on for ages, and she just gave up and put the music on. And that's exactly what it should be. Like, you can walk into a room full of people you don't know, and by the end of it, have a new friend.
Yeah.
And it increases perception of support. So we have different elements of a Decades Reloaded class. You've got your brain breaks. You can just completely switch off from absolutely everything. And that is really aided by things like recognizable music that you want to sing along to. The nostalgia side of things, which provokes positive associations to things that have happened throughout your life. So if somebody's struggling with their mental health, something that's very grounding and very good at bringing them out of a particularly low mindset in that instance is to think about something positive that's happened throughout their life. So they start to think more about the positive things rather than what the negatives that are going on right now.
Mm.
And then we've got the dance fitness aspect in terms of the dopamine and the serotonin and everything else that comes from exercising, but particularly exercising in a group, because there are greater psychological benefits to exercising in a group than there are working out alone. And
Yeah.
that's where we come into the community part, which is where our social connections are. And that's why exercising in a group is so much better, because it increases perception of support.
Yeah.
So there's so much research around it. I mean, EMD did a paper last year around the benefits of dancing and exercising in a group, and they're going to be doing another paper as well. I spoke to them recently, so there's another fabulous one coming out about the social aspect of that, which I'm looking forward to reading actually when it comes out. So
Yeah.
that's kind of Decades in a nutshell. I think I tend to focus on telling you more about the mental health benefits of it rather than the music, but I think the name tells you lots of decades of music. Absolutely anything.
Absolutely.
Anything goes.
Oh no,
So,
I think that's fantastic. And I think as well, it doesn't really matter whether you were born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties. You can appreciate different types of music and different styles. And I know for me, I know 70s, 80s music by heart. Like I probably couldn't tell you much of what's in the charts right now, but that's because I used to listen to it with my parents when we were in the car on the way to school, and it brings back so many positive memories. Shania Twain was a huge one for my mum. I know all the words, everything. Wham, just yeah,
yeah.
everything. Bay City Rollers as well. Love
Yes.
them. Yeah, oh yeah. See, even now I can feel myself just lighting up talking
Yeah.
about it. But I know mental health is a really, really important focus for you, and particularly at Decades Reloaded. So can you tell us just a little bit more about that and what you're doing? Yeah, maybe this could lead quite nicely into future projects potentially.
Yes. So at the moment, I'm kind of working through the brand to touch as many local communities as possible through our instructors to support their mental health. And in terms of our online presence, being very open about mental health on a personal level and on a brand level, to make those conversations feel safe and open up. So social connection can work in, and perception of support can work online as well in a different way. So when somebody online openly discuss a sensitive topic, such as a mental health condition, other people looking at it online feel more inclined to open up about their own experience because they feel that perception of support through somebody else's faceless vulnerability.
Yeah.
And then they feel safer online to talk about it. And sometimes you don't even really need to have ever met other people in person, but the engagement from the online community can be a fundamental support to someone else. So we're just trying to make those conversations feel part of the norm and to educate instructors in the difference between happy hormones and mental health workouts. There's no such thing as a mental health workout. I hate that term. I saw it during lockdown. I thought, oh, no, because any workout can benefit your mental health. So we harness the properties of what we're doing, and the benefits and use them to elevate the benefits. But there's no such thing as an actual mental health workout. And there's a lot of talk around mental health, particularly now. I do this a lot. Let's change hands.
That's okay. I use my hands all the time too.
There's so much talk around mental health since the pandemic that there's also a lot of misinformation that's being shared to a lot of people who take what they see online as fact. And it's not always shared, it's always shared with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
Nobody deliberately is giving out incorrect information around mental health. But the language being used is often not only incorrect, but stigmatizing. And it might not intentionally be offensive towards people, but somebody with a mental health condition will see a lot of the stuff that's going on right now from our industry as triggering and very isolating. And we have a really high intake of burn hundreds of calories and boost your endorphins and your mental health in the same sentence. You cannot put calorie burn or anything to do with weight loss in the same sentence as trying to improve somebody's mental health, not unless you want to trigger an influx of eating disorders, body dysmorphic conditions, anything along that spectrum of mental health. Somebody who may have be in their phase of recovery or on the cusp of, and then you are triggering them back into that cycle by telling them, but your mental health is going to get so much better if you burn hundreds of calories. No, it is not. It is not. And this has to stop. So I've become slightly more passionate about it since the pandemic, or since we opened back up, because the fitness industry didn't talk about mental health much prior to COVID. I was sort of like the only person harping on about personality disorders, and I think everyone thought I'd gone balmy. But ever since, it's been a massive topic of conversation. I saw the other week it's now tipped as the 4th top fitness trend for 2024. Mental health is not a trend. It's a crisis. It's life or death. It's not a trend. It's in the same list as technology-based workouts and AI. And
I feel you. Yeah.
It's not the same thing. So it's become increasingly important to spread more, not awareness, but knowledge. Everyone's aware of mental health now, but the knowledge isn't there. And being able to, it's one thing to get somebody into a class and tell them once they're there, the mental health benefits of being in the class. It's another thing to break down the mental health barriers that they've got preventing them from attending in the first place, or enjoying that experience whilst they're in your class and coming back next time. Because you might have someone that can never get over the contemplation stage.
Yeah.
It might just be too overwhelming to walk into a room full of 30 people.
So how would you go about doing that if you had someone who they want to come, but every excuse comes out and you know what's going on beneath all the layers, and it's just the fact they're terrified of coming? How would you
So
break down those barriers?
there's a lot of different things that the instructor can do. There's a bit of a line between getting too involved
Yeah.
and being supportive and identifying if it's just somebody who's not ready to come, just like the usual cycle of getting people, cycle of change, or people that are genuinely experiencing mental health barriers that are stopping them from coming. So things such as, we talk about this a lot in the Decades Reloaded training about how to help your clients overcome those barriers in much greater detail, but things, about your venue, being aware of what things in your venue could stop somebody from attending your class. Are the toilets easy to access? Something really silly right now that I've got going on is the toilet roll holders are really rubbish in my venue. I've got an amazing new hall, but getting the toilet roll out is like trying to beg a shop to hand you all their loo roll for free. It won't come out. So if you've got someone that's, somebody else would consider this daft, okay, but somebody might be paranoid they're going to need to go to the loo in the middle of a class.
Yeah.
Perhaps they've got IBS or Crohn's disease or an intolerance of any capacity. Perhaps they've got pelvic floor dysfunction or have had some kind of prolapse, or just a weakened bladder or a oversensitive bladder. These physical complications become mental health manifestations. And the more they worry about it, the worse it becomes in their head.
Yeah.
And it can lead to anxiety disorders and things like that. So it's reassuring them that, okay, if you always go in the fourth cubicle, it's always easier to get out of that one. The car park's really close by. You haven't got to walk through any other spaces. We're really easy to find. Just giving clear instructions about how to find your venue. If you're not big on coming into big, full, busy classes and spaces, this session of my week's a little bit quieter. So we tend to get about X amount of people. This is what the community is like that attend that class. So and so and so and so would love to come out and meet you out the front. If you need somebody to come and meet you, so you don't have to walk in on your own. Nobody's going to start without you. It's just words of reassurance, just thinking about all the things that you think somebody would be nervous about walking into their first class. But some people will have those nerves and just walk in anyway, and other people will be stopped from doing it.
Yeah.
So it's just thinking about all the little things,
It's all the little things that make all the difference. I remember I did a little video of going into the venue. So I started off in my car. Well, I wasn't driving, it's my husband driving. I was filming. So we came into the car park and then I went to the door, unlocked it, walked through, walked to the toilets, walked back, walked around the hall and said, "This is where you put your bag. This is where I stand. We can't wait to see you. There's some seats at the back if you just want to sit one out for a little bit. That's fine. The rooms, it's going to be, well, it wasn't dark, but I just said, oh, we'll have the flashy lights on. No one, no one's judging, no one's looking, just because for that class that was appropriate. And a lot of people did message me saying that really, really helped them.
Yeah.
Tell me the future of Lucy and Decades Reloaded.
So yeah, definitely want to look more at the mental health side of things. There's a lot more work that I want to do about that. I've got something coming at the end of the month, something being published at the end of the month that I'm really excited to be sharing, which is very much talking about changing the narrative around mental health in the fitness industry, and the fact that we as fitness professionals are expected to qualify in specialist populations, but the mental health awareness qualifications only an optional unit. It's not mandatory to work with people with mental health conditions, which I think needs to be changed rather rapidly. So I've written a piece around that. So I'm really excited that that's being shared. It's scheduled to go on the 25th. So fingers crossed, all being well, that goes ahead. And I'll be sharing the information that across the Decades Reloaded Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all of that. So we're all signed up for events for this year, for the first half of this year. And so there's not huge amounts different going on in the first half of 2024. So very much gonna focus on getting the events out of the way, and then there's something else that I'm launching in February that I can't talk about yet. To do with the mental health side of the business again for Decades, and a bigger project that I am trying to found right now to make the mental health side of the business again more accessible for people. We've got the Decades Reloaded H2O concept, which I did a soft launch on before Christmas. It's taking Decades Reloaded to the water. So we're making all the psychological benefits of a Decades Reloaded class more accessible for more people. So we've got a huge population of people who can't exercise or dance in a studio because it's too much weight bearing, high impact on their joints for various different physical reasons. So we've made it more accessible by putting it in the pool. Water-based exercise has long had a terrible reputation for being just for one group of people and slow and boring and not a great workout. So it's very much, there's the aerobic content in the water, but it's got your extra resistance section. And then there is sort of like a Pilates balance mobility sort of section towards the end. So we can start to work with clients who need to focus on those areas of their physical fitness, as well as getting the psychological benefits of the class, who need more than a cardiovascular workout, but they need to do some light resistance work, or they need to work on their balance and their mobility. So when we've got people coming into the pool with knee and hip replacements, for instance, they need to be able to protect themselves if they were to fall and slip over. So we do a lot of single leg and single arm balance and strengthening and things like that. So I'm really excited to get that out. The training program is up on decadesreloadedfitness.com. It's there for people to sign up to, but you do need to be a Decades Reloaded instructor first.
Right. Okay.
So we've got some of our instructors are already in the training to get that done. I've been teaching it for, well, pretty much as long as I've been teaching Decades. And so it's very tried and tested, very, very tried and tested. It's very, very popular, and I'm really excited to get more people doing it. So that's great and exciting. And there's more things that I'd like to do to make it accessible to more people in the future. But I only have so many hours in my week at the moment around both children.
Oh, how do you do it all? Chief juggler, honestly. Gosh, you've got so much going on with the events, all the projects, and I love the H2O idea. That's going to be really exciting to see where that goes. Yeah, you are bossing it, boss lady. That is amazing. Thank you again so much for giving up your Friday afternoon in between going to, is it your daughter's certification this afternoon?
Yes. Yeah, she's got assembly at 2:30, so she'll get a certificate then. So,
oh well, I hope that all goes really, really well. I'm sure you'll
told
be
them she had to get it this week because I'll be on the way to Alton Towers next Friday and I'd have missed it, so they've had to rush getting it this week.
Well, I will see you there. I will see you at Alton Towers next week.
I'm really hoping to come in and join Yogascape as well.
Oh yeah, you should. It's going to be lovely. We'll be in the state room.
I'm there on the Saturday night. I'll come on the Sunday.
Perfect. I think there'll be a lot of maybe a lot of hangovers in the room on Sunday. So I've been told.
Potentially. But I don't drink. Be all right. You'll have me. I'll be sober and square when I get there.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'll be sober and square too. No, it'll be fun. Oh, well, thank you again so much, Lucy, and enjoy the rest of your Friday. And I can't wait to see where you take everything. It's going to be a very exciting journey, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Lorna. Thanks for inviting me on. And I'm
Oh.
excited to see what you get up to as well. So good.
Oh, thank you so much, Lucy. I'll see you soon. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
thank you. Bye.
Bye. How incredible was that conversation? Lucy's story is just so heartwarming, inspiring, and really, really incredible. The fact that she took that huge leap and that huge step to going into fitness full time because she knew it was the right thing for her mental well-being and for her life and her family's, to being a brand owner, to now trying to inspire as many people as she can to improve their mental health through moving your body. She is just one to watch. So make sure you do follow Decades Reloaded on Instagram or Facebook, wherever you hang out. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do share it on your socials and tag @YogaScape Official and tag Decades Reloaded in it too. Thank you for listening.